White Centipede Noise Podcast is made possible by your support via Patreon. Go to patreon.com/White Centipede Noise to support, and stay tuned to hear about the exclusive benefits and bonus content available with this episode. White Centipede Noise is a label and mail order specializing in noise, power electronics, and industrial music. You can find underground items by many of the artists featured on this podcast in our extensive distro. We ship internationally and update with new stock regularly. Check out what's currently available at whitecentipedenoise.com. Hello and welcome to White Centipede Noise Podcast. I'm Oscar Brummel, and today my guest is Gaya Donadio of ANTICHILDLEAGUE, a long-running power electronics project, as well as a veteran organizer of the UK Industrial Underground. Hello, Gaia.
Hello.
Welcome to White Centipede Noise Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Oscar. Hi, thanks for inviting me. That was a surprise. And I thought through it and I took it on board.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've been aware of your work for a long time and, a fan and seen what you've been doing. But I recently interviewed Steve Underwood. And he told kind of his story of UK noise scene organizing gigs. And he mentioned you as a very big player in, I think he said London, correct? I didn't know.
Yes.
You were or are very involved in a lot of organizing gigs and things like that in London. So I thought it'd be a good time to talk to you.
Yeah. Yes, fine.
Hear your story. So if you don't mind just kind of starting sort of towards the beginning of how did you get involved, when and how did you get involved in kind of industrial noise, underground culture and scene? Because you've been active for quite a long time.
Yeah. So basically, I was kind of Googling myself as well, because sometimes I forget things, and I forget that I've done so many things. This is my point. So you just have to browse back, to the years. So initially, how did I get into the underground? Well, I was in Italy, I came to London. I've been part of the squatting scene back in the 88, I think. So we started with post-punk gigs. We were very active into the anarcho scene. So we used to squat. It was a big time in London where people could squat empty properties and make something nice out of it, like we did. I used to have a rehearsal space. We used to have even the dark room. We were really artist orientated, all of us, doing very interesting things for everyone. Gigs. I used to organize gigs as well at that time. Basically what happened is then we got into bigger squats. Like I remember Peckham, there was a big one, the Dollhouse, where at that time I also performed with a band called Chopin, which doesn't exist. Actually, I found a flyer from this guy.
Cool.
It's
Awesome.
Yeah, unfortunately he's passed away, Biff. And we used to do benefits for people arrested during the poll tax demonstration, So we were kind of active in doing this kind of stuff. And then I had a few periods in my life where things changed totally.
Yeah.
So then from there I met Googie, which is my dearest, and he's now had a traumatic, catastrophic accident. But since the first day we met, then he introduced me to the more, although I had already been into the underground culture, but, there was another facet of it, which together with Googie, we just grew into it. So he used to have a label called Biotope Art Organization. It's a cassette label.
Yeah.
So we started to do things together. We started to do videos, multimedia stuff together, some tracks together. I think we did this one together, one of the tracks here.
Oh, cool.
Which is like a compilation.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Which is a few names on it. So then we orbited around the One-to-One Center in Brixton, which was an anarcho-punk place where there were sort of activities and also gigs. And so my friend Paul, he used to run a club called Bar Sate, where there were many experimental acts. So then suddenly after that, I started as well doing stuff there. And this is where I started at the One-to-One Anarchist Center.
Mm-hmm.
The place was shut down, obviously. But then I found other places. Because I was really into it. I loved it. That was my element, organizing, being part of people that were a bit like me, and I felt I wanted to get that safe space where I could be myself and having people around me that could express themselves as I wish I could.
Yeah.
And it was so exciting and rebellious at the same time.
Right.
So that's what I did. Then found the Red Rose. Well, I started to do gigs with Steve, which was really nice. I mean, we had quite a few noise bands. And then moved to the Red Rose, where the London Musician Collective actually hired me, the PA. They're now part of Resonance FM. You know Resonance FM?
I don't.
It's like an experimental music radio in London. And I think now, I don't know if they're gone, but London Musician Collective, they were based in Brixton. They had also a studio. So they were a collective, and I hired a PA for the Red Rose once. And basically, well, they refused after that because our gigs were too noisy anyway and not good at all. We did a few gigs at the Red Rose, but simultaneously I did some in Brixton in one pub, which also refused to have us because they said this is not music, So it was interesting because it was challenging, to find a space where we could express ourselves. Yep. Eventually we found a home. I found a home. I found the Red Rose, which was incredible. I loved that place. It was like a socialist club. In the back of the backstage, you had like placard for the Labour Club, which was a Labour club. And it was a comedy house as well.
Right.
It was a brilliant place to be. So we had all sorts of gigs there. And then we moved also to the Slamlight eventually, because we then did a gig at Islington, the Garage, and they cancelled it. And then we quickly find the Slamlight to do it. And then since then we did a succession of gigs at Slamlight, basically.
Is that also in London? I'm not very familiar with geography of the UK. Are you in the London area with these gigs?
Yes. Okay. All London.
Slimelight and Red Rose, those are in London.
All London based. I mean, North London, Finsbury Park, then Angel, then Brixton, South London. So a few places, Okay. So, and it's been kind of regular kind of shows. I think I had even 2 shows in a month at some point. I was full of energy and everybody was staying at my flat. Yeah. So I didn't have to pay the hotel. And, was easier then because I could guest people and I had a lot of time in my hand. But then, things moved on and we just yeah, I just wanted to dedicate a bit more time to my project, you know.
When did that
Because
period of activity and organizing end, roughly?
I think my last gig was with Southcliffe Jugend at, I can't remember what venue that was.
Which year was that, roughly?
I have to Google it.
That's okay. Well, like 2000, mid 2000s, or like later.
Yeah, 17 or something.
Okay, so that recent.
Yeah, let me check.
Cool.
Sorry, but
that's all right.
Too many days.
Okay, so up until like the teens, the 2015s, 17s, you were active like that.
Yes. Then I started to do stuff for myself, and but then my best friend had his accident, so it's 4 years now. I'm taking care of him.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's terrible.
And then I've been quite busy with work as well, trying to do my project, give a bit more time to my ACL project. Equally having a lot of stuff to deal with normally throughout my days. So yeah.
You mentioned you really enjoyed organizing and that you were in your element like that. Was it also ever difficult, or did it feel thankless ever to be putting so much work into shows, or was that something what was the payoff for you, for example?
I think the payoff for me was I felt accomplished, that I was doing acts that no one would have touched, and I would do acts that could bring some diverse elements into the music scene, as I tried very hard to bring that diversity together, in people together, in a safe space where people felt confident to be themselves without fears of being judged, discriminated. And that was really interesting. I think this is what I enjoyed the most, where you go to a gig and you feel like you are with your own family, This is how my gig felt, in a way, where people come there and everybody's so nice and friendly. It's the music, really, as well, the noise. I loved it. I loved the element of the noise, In fact, I would go and push the volume all the time. I even fight with a guy on the floor once, just punching him, and he punching me because everybody was in the room and we couldn't hear anything. So at some point I said, look, but what's the problem? This is a PA system. We need to hear. And he was aggressive, the guy. But, I can be aggressive too sometimes. And then we were on the floor, and then somebody divided. That was the only time, I think. I think it was a Michael Nine gig, anyway. My friend, Michael Nine. Yeah. But it was so funny because then, the volume was put up, and Michael eventually could do his show appropriately. But I've had interesting gigs where we had, like, at the White House gig, we had, I remember this blue PA. It was a blue with the front speakers, was all blue. Eventually, at some point, we had like smoke coming out of the monitor. And me and someone, I can't remember, Paul, maybe it was Paul Bassett, we were going there trying to do something. It was so crazy.
I mean, if you were fighting the sound guy on the floor, you must have quite a reputation for being, tough and serious in the scene.
Yeah, possibly. And people probably have been scared of me. But who cares? Yeah. People that know me, I'm not an aggressive person. I'm not, this one incident was really funny. I think everybody was with me all together because it was really strange that somebody wouldn't put the volume up, Yeah. I mean, I rented the venue. I have a service, Right. I'm paying for. So... I don't know about the reputation, but I mean, I don't care what reputation I have. I am myself. People can take it or leave it. I don't care. That's me. people that know me know who I am, and they know how much I'm into this kind of passion. I've done so far, because nobody would have done it.
For sure.
So.
Yeah, I mean, those individuals like you, or whoever it might be in a scene, oftentimes they put an entire city or entire scene on their shoulders, being the ones to make something possible. And when they go away, the whole scene can go away. It really sometimes boils down to one person that has that passion and willing to put in that hard work.
It's been very difficult, but I think I was at a stage where it was interesting, because we had so many people coming from abroad, to see our gig regularly. And we bonded with so many friends now, which are really dear friends, and people that would just come to support what we were doing, because it was quite big,
Yeah.
And the diversity that we brought in, because, it wasn't just noise, it was also other stuff that I've put on throughout the years, which actually, the noise scene didn't like, and the other scene didn't like.
Right.
So it was like, the attrition of it, where to a point where actually people were actually meeting, and actually, even if the test wasn't what they didn't like, but it was pleasant to be around people at gigs, and grow up network. People from labels, bands that have never played before, they came to my gig and they just grew, I think in terms of friendship and network that people have created, like DJs as well, created all that surrounding that, it's very hard to create if you want to actually even plan it nowadays, because of Brexit and, because of the cost of living, because of divisions that you have within the scenes. Everybody works in isolation. When I started, maybe I was lucky, because not many bands like Grey Wolves or Mike Condom, we were doing things together with Mike, for example. I was doing some gigs in London, he would them in Leeds at a Mike Club. Yeah. I was doing things here, and someone else in Italy or in Germany, for example, like Tesco or Old York Cafe, or I was doing things with Susan Lonely, We did the Extreme Music from Women gig where, that's where some women came out after me saying, why are you doing this? You shouldn't do that. And really? I said, why shouldn't I do that? What's your problem with it? So I just think that there has been a lot of stuff that
absolutely a huge amount of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I just hearing bits and pieces of it here, it sounds like you were really involved in a lot of very important and legendary culture and music. A lot of the artists that you've mentioned and that I know that you've worked with are from kind of the old guard, I would say, or the older generation of industrial and, UK industrial specific. White House, Grey Wolves, Condom, for example. But how much is there any crossover, or was there any crossover from that older generation to younger generations of industrial noise fans in London? Were they coming to your shows and kind of passing that culture on?
Yes, I think we had some more oldies coming to our gigs, and that was the beauty of it, mixing not only the culture, from all sides of the Atlantic to Europe to other places in the world, but also the generation and the gender, which was a big thing for me, like LGBTQ+. Sure. I've always represented that in my clubs, or everything I've done. There's never been any obstacles for people to come to the gig and feel free, whether they were 19 or whether they were, in fact, we have, I've had somebody emailing me that used to come to the White House gig with his dad, which he's got a band now. I forgot his band.
Wow.
But when he saw me online, he just sent me a message and said, "Oh God, Gaia, you did so much for me, because when I came to your gig, that was such a big inspiration, you know."
Yeah.
And we had maybe two generations, maybe, you know, the older, the younger. And it's cool, because this is what you want, you know, open-mindedness. You know, you want people to understand that in this world there is not just Spice Girls, you know. There is not just Bob Marley or what else is there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I found these. We did that.
Oh, cool. Costas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the first show I did of Costas with Marianne, which was in One-to-One Anarchist Center.
Yeah.
So we had a bunch of feminists looking at the videos in the shop upstairs and going, "You shouldn't do this, guy, because look at the picture." And then I said, "Look, just give me a break. Just come and see the show."
Yeah.
And then when Costas and Marianne went on stage, which then we produced also a cassette called La Base, then Marianne had a massive dildo, you know. And Costas been very submissive. So it was adult kind of stuff, but it was all like an opera that they were simulating, you know. And what really makes me feel depressed sometimes, that people can just immediately judge someone by just an image or just a word or selecting a sentence without actually even seeing that person or having one chat with that person before actually, or even reading their history or checking out people before judging people.
Right.
So that was incredible, this one. And then,
from those kind of situations where you have, like you said, these angry women who were against the show before they saw it, have you ever had experiences where after seeing the show or after talking to you, they change their minds or they understand? Does that ever happen? Hi, everyone. First of all, you can support Gaia by visiting antichildleague.bandcamp.com and picking up some music from her catalog. After this episode, be sure to check out the extended segment of the interview, only on the White Centipede Noise Podcast Patreon. I've got a couple copies of the Anti-Child League tape Transmission, released on Bacteria Field in 2021, that I'm giving away on the Patreon as well. I'm also working on a 3-CD White Centipede Noise Podcast compilation that'll feature new material from many of the artists that have been in the podcast in these first 2 years, paired with audio excerpts from their interviews. It'll only be available to Patreon supporters, and it'll only go into production once the Patreon has reached 300 members. Those are just a few of the benefits you get by supporting White Centipede Noise Podcast via Patreon. Most importantly, by joining the Patreon, you directly make the existence of this podcast possible. A lot of time and resources go into each episode, so if you're a fan, please chip in. Just $5 or $10 a month goes a long way in helping the podcast. So thank you to all who support already, all who have in the past, and all who do in the future. Now back to Gaia.
I think they did, because, most of the punk anarchist people I used to hang out before I became a solo, with my friend Googie, maybe Patrick from Sixcom as well, who have always been with me, supporting me in every way. They probably had some doubt, which then they don't even now, because they've seen that kind of person that I am.
Right.
They know, probably they would argue with some acts that I put on, like DIJ or things like that, you know.
Right.
But in the end, if people know who you are, what you do, then they realize that it's all purely about music. It's nothing to do with anything else, Right. And it's about that freedom of mind and freedom of expression, which you cannot suppress. Because if you suppress that, you suppress the world inside us.
Yeah. I agree, 100%. Yeah. So tell me then about your project and your expression, Anti-Child League, ACL, it's often known as. When did that form in this period, and how did you start working with that, and how has that changed over time? I mean, I know your first tape, I think, is Hellworm, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
which came out in 2001, if I'm correct.
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just started sporadically. I was doing tracks here and there, but I never actually planned anything. And then I did this tape. And then it was very slow. I haven't done anything very keeping tracks on releases or things like that, because I was more doing gigs and stuff. So it's been very slow. It's not like been ever a full-time project anyway. But only recently I'm getting more into it because I'm not doing a lot of gigs.
Right.
And obviously my mind is expanding more with my changing tastes as well. And now you hear things. And now I don't like stuff I did before, and how I like to do better stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like a kind of my own personal project and my speaker's corner, if you want to like it or not, where I express myself and I kind of look at the sound and at the way I want to feel it and sound it, which is changing, and it changes all the time, Yeah. So, yeah.
It does seem very personal. It seems like there are a lot of influences that you can maybe recognize from different genres of industrial power electronics and things like that, but there's something still very different about it, I would say, and very unique and personal, it seems.
Yeah, it's very personalized to what sometimes I feel, but also I do not want to. Maybe it's very hard to say that you do something just about feelings. No, it's not true. It's also about the music and the sounds that you produce, which for me are really important sometimes because I'm very meticulous. I have tons of sounds, but sometimes it's how you perceive it. Mm-hmm. It can be, I can perceive it really crappily and just produce something which is really crap, the way you mix it and everything. And then I can go the day after with the same sounds and do a different mix altogether and make it amazing, So it's about the sounds as well and how you play with it. I mean, sometimes you can just lose yourself in it, like I do.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like the past several years you have been much more active. And there's some albums that came out in the, 5, 6, 7 years ago. The Father is one, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And they seem like they're kind of a trilogy. Is there a concept behind these albums and a way that they connect together?
Yes, I think this is about my upbringing and religions and what they can do to some people, how they can impact on someone's life, especially, onto some people that cannot say or express their views or beliefs, and religions that are imposed on you and enslave you, and it brings so much war in the world, because in fact, if you look at the world and the way we are situated at the moment, it's all a big fight about religions and about money and, industrialization and all of that. So because I come from a country which is, Italy, so for me was a path of refusing how a woman's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You have to marry, you have to have children, you have to go to church, and you have to follow your religion. And I refuse all of that. So within that, there is an expression of my true feeling towards my freedom of expression, what that means, how I want it to be. So I don't insult anyone, absolutely, because I respect people of all kinds of religions and gender or whatever but it's my private and personal space where I feel that I can actually have a voice creatively, and express my feeling about that, if you know what I mean.
Were you raised very Catholic?
I come from a Catholic society, which is very much changed now. You know, it's not like it used to be. But when I grew up, they expected me to have children and to marry a man and to be a good housewife.
Right.
And I detest all of that because I'm nowhere near any of these female species. It's their choice to do that, and I respect them.
Yeah.
But there is also females that don't want to have children, don't want to get married, and want to be free. And I think we balance the earth as well. You know, I don't take maternity leave, you see, my colleagues do. So I'm saving a lot of money, if you want to ask me, to the taxpayers. So, I mean, but I respect, most of my sisters have children. I love them, and, you know, and my friends as well. There's no dispute about that. It's just that mutual respect for you to be respected as you are and your views as you respect them, you know. And also to agree to disagree on the fact that actually God is not going to save anyone because I don't believe in it. It's my right to say so as an atheist, you know, or maybe a pagan without gods. It's my right too to say things like that, you know, as they have the right to say that God exists, believing in a cloud. My right is also to say, actually, I don't believe there is a cloud. I don't believe there is somebody that's going to save me. And I don't believe that I'm going to live forever. You know, what is wrong with that? You know?
And all of that kind of influences the name Anti-Child League, right? I mean... Are there other messages or ideas that you wish to get across with Anti-Child League?
I think there is a lot of discrimination and stigma with women that don't breed on this planet. In fact, I've had instances with one colleague in a meeting we were having with professionals and all of that, saying, but how do you know that? You don't have children. So, you know, I don't care as much as they. I don't love as much as they. I do not understand how life works because I don't have children, which is not right, is it? I mean, you know, if, you know, so that type of discrimination also, it's like when you are a woman and you don't breed, in some societies you are stoned, you are useless. You know, look at the Sharia law and what it does to women, you know. Look at other cultures, what women are subjected to, you know. I mean, you have no freedom to be who you are. So that's where Anti-Child League came from, you know, to express that anger, that rebellion, and that freedom actually is a conflict of interest because it can go totally against me. In fact, I've had a lot of people complaining about me because of the name that I use. And I had people going, oh, you hate children, don't you? And I said, no, I don't. Actually, they're the best people to be with because they're so good. They're innocent and they're not like, you know, adults can be always, sometimes you find very malicious adults. At least children, you can be, you know, playing free, you know, and, you know, talking without thinking that person might, you know, you have to probably adjust what you say because, you know, it's nice. You are free. You are innocent. You are honest. You are, you know, and if you do nothing wrong, you don't have anything to worry about, you know.
Do you consider the project to be a feminist project?
I don't know about feminists because some feminists of today I wouldn't agree with. And also some feminists of yesterday would have attacked the gigs I put on. So I believe very much in individuals, although my sex is a female sex. So there is a lot of conflict of interest here within you call yourself a feminist and who you associate with, you know, especially nowadays with the debate we have in England with, you know, I don't know if you watch the news, about all this transgenderism and all this stuff that is happening, So I believe that it's obvious that of a female sex. So I do not. It's very hard, this question. It's not a very easy one.
No, I know. I mean, the term is so loaded and means so many different things for many different people. But
you know what? I associate myself to myself, and people have to take it or leave it. Because if I say I associate to feminists, they hate me. Some of these feminists do hate me for what I've done, even just my name and who I am, and how I dress, maybe. So I do not know, whether. But yes, I'm very pro rights for women, and I always advocated that, especially in whatever I do at work, at gigs, within my own project, with me being a female sex. And in fact, when I was doing concerts, people with some male in the noise scene, or other scene as well, would not even come to me to ask me questions, because they wouldn't dare go to a woman to ask questions, like technical stuff, like the PA or things like that. But they would go to Googie, to ask him. And Googie would go, sorry, it's not me doing this. You have to ask Gaia. And Googie got really angry because he had that all the time. Like, the man would go to the man, but wouldn't go to the female, which is the one in charge, in control of that situation, because she's female sex. And I've had that so many times for so many years, and I still have it anyway.
I believe it.
I'm kind of used to it, but I don't use it as a scapegoatism, to just go, oh, I'm a feminist, poor me. I'm not like that. I'm sorry. Because I have fantastic male friends in the noise scene. Male that sometimes could be accused of being, misogynistic, when in fact they're not.
Right.
And, I judge a person by individual, by what they are, really.
It seems like your activities draw a lot of attacks and animosity from all directions. You could, like you said, you could say, oh my God, these men at the shows are discriminating against, or they're not treating me with respect. So now I hate all men noise artists. But you haven't done that. You've had a way to kind of still carry on without letting it kind of make you angry or bitter, right?
Yes, and this is the good thing about me. I'm very patient, and I know that people go through a pathway in life, and you have to give them time to learn. Sometimes not everything that you see seems what it is, Sometimes people put a shield on. Sometimes it's like just the way they want to be perceived, but in reality they're not like that, In fact, you get so many people in the noise scene that, project images of things that they are not really, They're just like, they like that kind of art, but in reality they're just, just normal family people, family men. And it's fine, I confront people face to face when there is a problem, and I like to debate, and I like to actually see what they're made of, and when they see what I'm made of, then maybe they act differently, like so many friends of mine in the past have done. When we were gathering to do power electronic gigs, and I was the only female around, and was interesting because there aren't many females in this scene. There aren't many. This is the thing. So you feel quite isolated somehow, I've had some female friends, like Tina from Bizarre Pro, which is now vanished, Joanna from Nivus, which is now vanished. But there aren't many, that you can say, like men do. You got a lot of friends, mates that you can do noise together. I don't have peers around me. Also because I'm very antisocial in a way. I'm not a very social person, you know. If you
Are you
see me
social
out,
in the context of gigs?
in the context of going out and going to people's houses and, you know, be like your best friend and things like that, I'm not like that. I'm very antisocial at the moment. I'm trying to get out a bit recently, you know, and meet people, but I've been kind of withdrawn with myself, doing my own stuff. I have these periods of isolation, which are very productive in my mind because then I focus on creative stuff, you know. But yes, I think it's an interesting question, really. I think there is a lot of misogyny out there, you know, but it's not my problem. It's their problem. And they will face it eventually when they get faced to it. Some people won't change. You can't change people's life and personality, you know. So the best thing is to never let these people put you down, you know, in terms of, and they will never do that with me because I've had so many of these experiences that it's sad. It makes you sad, you know, to see that people are like that. Especially when there are not many female artists around or musicians or whatever you want to call me. I mean, I'm a very little project. I'm not very prominent. I don't have anybody promoting me. I don't come from a very privileged background. I don't have a clique of people that go out there and, you know, like to do with maybe others to promote you. Or there are a few fans I have to say. Sure. But I'm not coming from a privileged background where you have labels, you have a tour manager, you know, and you have a cliche of industry, which even if you are an underground artist, you are still a mainstream person because you're surrounded of all of this background, you know, a safe haven, where I operate as an isolated unit with many isolated units like me who are considered dangerous. And we are proud of ourselves anyway, and unsafe, you know. So this is the rebellious spirit which will never end. And this is how it is. So we are not fitting into that category, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Do you think that kind of defines what industrial culture is? Do you think that's a key element of industrial culture? That kind of antisocial or dangerous element?
Yeah, I think it's part of it. I mean, not everybody's antisocial. I mean, you know, but there are many people I know that are antisocial and are very creative. And sometimes art is war. You know, you are creating, you are rebelling, you are bringing out expression and bringing out new sounds. And I don't know. I mean, that's the freedom I see. But industrial culture is divided in sectors where you have the one which are, yes, underground, but they're mainstream, you know. But then you have this section where there is a noise scene and there is the power electronic scene, which is very underground because it's music that is not considered even music, some of it, you know. It's like, you know. So, and there is a little network, which is, you know, a different network, which is not kind of industrial mainstream. It's like operating more within that network of, you know, where there is no sponsorship, there is no, you know, there is no, I don't know, there is no tour manager that organizes the tour for you. You just know people because you know, like me, I have a label, my own label, like Shadow, and I have also a distribution, which I've had for a long time. Yeah. So you know people that do the music, you know people that sell the records, you know. And this is the network that you create, you know. And this is how you operate. You operate like by people that you know, that they come along, you know, and they become acquaintance. So, you know.
And it seems like everyone you operate in a very underground way, but it seems like everyone who knows you or has dealt with you does have a great deal of respect for you.
Well, I was,
or is that wrong? I mean, have you had issues within the scene from other people who are kind of on that same level?
I was very moved, with the recent response I had from people with regarding the cancellation from cancer cultures. I've had a dispute with inside the scene. Of course I did. I mean, we did have gigs where insiders were trying to ban us, from performing. So, yes, there are infiltrators in the scene that are there to create troubles. I mean, when I first started, actually, we had a place in London Bridge called Backspace. It was an internet cafe, where in fact that's where we started, actually, with Googie. And we were in with Soundrift, is Andrea via Cava. Basically, what we did is we were meeting there, and there was quite a few people. And when I started to put on White House, for example, I was attacked by these people,
Oh, the people that you were with?
Of course, quite a few people, which they thought I shouldn't have put on some gigs, which for them was not correct, that I would put on some bands. Yeah. And who are they to tell me what to do?
Right.
Because, I don't give a damn. I do what I do. I'm in control of what I do. And we have never done anything wrong, rather than music, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So these people were coming and think to patronize about their perceived views on what should be right or wrong in what we do. When in fact, who are they to judge what you do or what you not do? When it's all related to art and culture, it's nothing related to anything else, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And how long ago was that, the first time that you had that kind of attacks?
How long was that? The first attack was when I did the Extreme Music from Women and started to work with William Bennett. Because I did a succession of gigs with William, White House. I did a few gigs with them. We did also a weekend where William did a lecture. So yes, I was basically attacked on that, on the first one when I started to do a White House. Then I had. What was it? Also, they attacked me on, Death in June, 6Com, Genocide Organ, Boyd Rice, for example,
Yeah. All through the years, it's been happening.
Yeah, it's been happening all the way through, basically. I have never gone out there public, So I've been.
But you never stopped. You never gave up.
I never gave up, of course. Why should I ever give up? This is the people I like to put on and I believe, and I love their music. So why should I stop?
Yeah.
And Southcliffe Ugent, for example, I love them. Look at them. They're fantastic,
What did happen recently? You mentioned a cancellation, and there was something on your Facebook about this, and I noticed you were booked on tour with the RITA, Sam McKinley. Then I also all of a sudden noticed that the tour was canceled. What happened?
I don't know what happened, but apparently somebody associated me with gigs that I've done in the past, and apparently they didn't share my views, which I don't know what they mean by that, because I never met this promoter before.
Yeah.
He's never spoken to me or even met me once. So apparently, because he's so we were just organizing, even on the train ticket, everything, because I was with Sam, I've been communicating with Sam, done stuff with him, and it's a good friend. So everything was planned, and then eventually I get the promoter emailing me saying that he had to cancel me because of the views because of the gigs I put on a slam light. And he doesn't share the views. And then I said to him, what views? Can you explain a bit further? Because I want to know what views, because I never met you. You don't know me. What is to do with ACL anyway? It's gigs that are put on many years ago, and why you want to... But he didn't really comment any further. So he cancelled me, and then... So I was cancelled as well, like a couple of years ago, I think. Yeah. So they're trying to not let me play in England. I mean, beside my friends, when they book me, there is a certain some group. I think I know also who they are, but I can't name them because I do not want to,
Yeah.
I have not time for them.
Yeah.
But what the guy did then in the end, he dropped the tour completely. And
that's terrible.
I don't know whether this is because I went public, because now I'm just I just think that people need to know what's happening. And I don't think it's correct. I don't think it's right. I don't have anything to be ashamed of. I'm very proud of what I've done.
Yeah.
And the hacks I put on.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, why they try to block me. It's, the only female artist in this country that has been blocked from playing.
That's crazy. And, without even talking to you.
No. So they're trying to block me from going on stage, basically.
And you seem like someone who is very willing to meet with someone, talk to them face to face. You mentioned before, you'll... Yeah, this is the most horrible thing, because you think, at least if you knew me, or maybe I said something that you didn't like, you could tell me. But tell me, you can't just cancel someone just because maybe somebody sent you an email, and you didn't even check, because this person didn't even check my history. Probably booked me on without knowing who I was, maybe in the first place. Right.
But I think it's a new trend. I don't know. Just maybe people want to feel good with themselves. That they done something good by cancelling someone, which might have an association with some bands that they find offensive. I don't know. But in my view, it's okay, if you cancel it, can you give us an explanation as well? Because, what is to do that my views are involved? Because I want to know what you're talking about. What's
the solution, or what would be a good way to deal with that kind of energy?
The best way to deal with that kind of energy is just rise above, ignore, and move on. This is what I've done all the time, and I continue doing.
Yeah.
And be proud of yourself. Be confident, because they're nothing. They're just people that probably need to go up a little bit and just think a little bit more through what they're doing. Because, I think when life faces you with very traumatic experiences, then you realize how stupid and bitter and very low is what they're doing. Because life is not just about that. But the thing is, they will face it eventually, I think, in my view, what they're doing, and maybe think it through and think maybe it wasn't the right thing I've done.
Maybe they'll reach out and apologize and make some sort of statement. I think that would be the right thing to do, for one.
I thought of that, yes. I thought it would be so nice if they would just apologize, and say, I'm sorry, it wasn't because of you, but I have this because of that,
Right.
But it's just very rude and,
Well, I mean, it does get difficult. The energy is one thing, but it gets difficult when people like that can actually cancel with, stopping a show, for example.
Yeah.
To just complain is one thing, but when someone can actually do something, that's really when alternate solution needs to be found, I think.
I went public this time. avoided going public because I didn't want to draw everyone into it and back again to the same story,
Yeah.
But I felt that I really needed, I am so proud of me and all the things I do in my life at the moment, I'm so honest and I'm so caring, for people that I think, if people would come 1 week in my life and see what I do, they would never dream of what I really do for people.
Yeah.
And thinking of that, I'm getting older as well. I've got nothing to lose. I've done nothing wrong. And for me, it was like, I need to go out there and just say it for once because I've done nothing wrong. And these guys are cancelling me. They're just trying to boycott me for not being creative anymore, And this is so wrong because I've done nothing wrong for it,
Not only have you done nothing wrong, you've done a lot of very important things for underground culture, for music, for a lot of people. I mean, and I think to not even acknowledge that and to sweep that under the rug and then to try to attack you for it is just insane.
I mean, things I've done for people, they came natural. They were like my second nature for me, It was also about me and feel satisfying. So even though I've done a lot of work, actually I could have bought a house with the money I lost, by doing all the gigs I did. I mean, all the things I've done, they were things that I nurtured throughout myself, as everyone did. So it was like a community type of work where we all enjoyed. So, it's something natural that came natural to do. It's nothing that I forced myself upon it to do it, I loved it. So it was part of me and I've done it. And I continue doing so because we are talking with friends in London that we might start doing gigs again in London next year. So we're looking for venues. So everything comes for a reason. I think sometime maybe not, I don't know. But, it's giving me even more motivation to actually try and do something interesting, and maybe start to do gigs again,
Yeah. I think I really commend the fact that you are carrying on, and also the fact that we're public about it and vocal, because I think a lot of times people want to just kind of ignore things or think they'll go away, and I understand that, but at the same time, at some point that adds up, and then people who make these kind of shitty decisions and who shouldn't have any power, they think they have the power.
Exactly. And this is what I thought. We did fight. I mean, we did fight big time with Mac from Slamlight, which is now passed away. He's the owner, was one of the owners at Slamlight. When we did a concert there, and, with Patrick Sixcom, who was also as a Sixcom on this gig, we said to Mac, okay, let's stop it. We don't need to do it. We don't want to give you any problems. And Mark was going, no, we do it. It's our right. We need to do it. We're doing nothing wrong. And we did gigs. It wasn't just me. It was a circle of people around me. They were going, we have to do this. We have to stand up right, and we have to make a cause for it because we are doing nothing wrong, And so every gig I've done that had some kind of objection from the so-called thought police was in fact one of the best gigs I've done, ever. And I think this is the reason why I went out there and I went online, because I think if, these people think they can get away with it, they will do it all the time. And for me now, I'm going to be out there all the time, and I'm going to be actually very honest about things like this, because I think it's not just me affected by this, it's so many other people. And if we are all quiet, what is going to happen in a few years' time?
Right.
Tell me.
Yeah.
What is going to be like the scene? We're going to have these people stopping everybody playing.
Right.
just because we got naked on stage, or we're going to do a slogan about anything that we don't like, because this is what is freedom of expression.
Right.
You know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the people who act like that people should just stop associating with them, I guess. Just move on. Just cancel them. Just don't deal with them anymore. Can you tell me about some of your collaborations you've done over the years? Can you well, first of all, tell me about your relationship with Sam McKinley from the RITA, because you guys did a split together. I know he's a big fan of yours, and you guys have done. And he invited you to be on the tour in the first place. So how that kind of working relationship began?
Well, we basically got in touch, and Sam wanted to do something with me, and then we did a split cassette, I think it was. And we've been in touch since then. And then, sometime if you come to England, we do something together. I love Sam. He's so nice. And it's like, as Sam, for me, it's like a relationship you have with somebody who share the same interests, like the noise. We love the noise. I love the noise. And we've done something together. I love his art and I love his work. It's incredible. And this is how it came, that he was coming to England, and then he asked me to play, and then we were going to do something together as well as a collaboration together on stage. And I felt so bad because, it's just incredible that he's now not, but we're going to get RITA in London again.
It'll balance out. What about some of the other collaborations you've done with other artists, either live or recordings? You mentioned Tina from Silent Abuse, that 7-inch. But some other folks. Have you collaborated with? Did you collaborate with Paul from Sutcliffe Jugend?
Oh yes. We done something together with Paul. He's got a side project. It was like spoken word and stuff like that. Nothing specific from my side in terms of music. I can't remember exactly, but we did something with him. I done something with Mike Dando as well. Fight for Your Own Right. That one.
Yes.
So that was from my 4-track mix that I gave to Mike, and he did that.
Cool.
What else? I've done a few collaborations, I've done also something with, which is not necessarily noise. I've done tour with Sixcom and Schrager Music, which was more drumming and stuff like that. What else? I can't remember.
What do you enjoy? Sorry, go ahead.
What's her name? Sorry. Let me go on my disc.
Yeah.
I'm so bad. I didn't prepare for this. I didn't do my own.
You're very prepared. You have stuff sitting there already. That's cool.
I've got something, but there was a lot more that maybe I should have taken with me. I've done something with... we did some tape in the late 90s. This tape label called...
let's see.
There we go.
I was looking at your Discogs earlier. I didn't.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I've done something with sandblasting. I've done something with another project called Sixcom Exus, which was a bit more dancey stuff, electronic. Then I've done something else with... let's see... Biotope Art Organization, Dishuman Arrests. We did something together on EE tape. That was in 98, 97.
Okay. So that was before, that was your earlier stuff before you made your first debut cassette, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I can't remember. I've done a few.
What do you enjoy more, recording or performing?
I think performing gives the hell out of me, because the recent performance I've done, they were so different. I liked them, but I'm exhausted because they're really intense. So I like performing because there is an element that you don't get in the recording, which is the live element is always the best. And I don't know, I like the new lives. The last one I had in Brixton, I think last June, last year, was really good. So every live event I get better, if you ask me.
Sure.
Recording is good, but depends how I'm feeling when I am, because I can be on something for a long time because I can't focus in constructing something, because it's not like I swallow I do, you put something else. I like to be constructive in what I do, even when it's noise.
It's very interesting, very structured, very. You can tell there's a lot of things going on, and the transitions and the composition is very, very purposeful.
So I'm kind of very demanding towards myself recently. That's why I'm stuck. I've got enough material for the new release, which I was doing for the RITA show, actually, for the new show. But I've got to, some days when you get there and you get to focus on constructing something, and then you do one mix and then you go and listen to it and then you go, fuck, this is shit. Yeah. And then you go and you do it differently. And then you realize that actually, this is the thing with noise. You can perceive it so differently from one day to another. And that's what can change. And then to get the perfect thing, sometimes I'm so judgmental with what I do at the moment. I'm just really bad. So
not a bad thing, though. That's not a bad thing, though. I think artists should be judgmental with what they do, because I think it brings out their best work.
So I'm looking forward for my next one, which is a bit more, I'm kind of like doing stuff sometimes which doesn't fit in the noise. So I do kind of stuff that people can download for free, because I don't have another platform to do stuff. So, but, I have this thing where I do create stuff and it comes and it's so nice. And then I think, wow, this is so bad to just bin it. I'm going to give it for free, for people to take it. But
on your Bandcamp, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I come up with things, I experiment, and I think, because I'm quite open-minded, you see. I come from a background where I'm into not just noise music, I used to be into doom metal, when I was a kid, and new wave stuff as well. So I'm very open-minded in the way I do stuff. But sometimes I understand that ACL is just like pretty much a more experimental noise power electronic project. So sometimes I do things and I think this doesn't fit there, So it's kind of a struggle as well.
Sure. You played some gigs also, or at least one, in the United States a few years ago, right?
Yeah, that was lovely. I loved it. Yeah.
And you also, you did a couple releases on Bacteria Field.
Yeah.
Which I actually have right here. Let's listen to this one.
Yeah.
How did you get in touch with those guys and that scene over there?
I think they got in touch with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're friends of friends of friends. Friends of friends. So we are all like kind of friends, acquaintance, friends in the same network of people. Yeah. This is how the scene is made, we know who is doing this tape, who is doing this release, who is this guy. So, and then, Jacob contacted me and I done one tape. I think I done the second one with him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then New York was great. I was just invited there. It was amazing. It was a good
Cool.
gig. I think people were pogoing, table was thrown in the air. I think it was really, really mad. They loved the performance, was quite good. The vibe I got was amazing. It's nice. I have a very fond memory of New York. I love New York. Yeah.
Awesome. What are your hopes for the future of this music and scene? What do you think can happen?
What can happen is, I don't know. I would love to see more noise show in London, for example. I would love to see more people coming out the woods and just, be more active. That's what would be nice.
Yeah.
And people to mix up a bit more, not to have just the cool, wire type magazine kind of people, intellectual, like studenty type doing the shows. But I would like actually people from our scene, which is a little bit more difficult, to come out there and do more shows rather than be banned, or rather than being cancelled, and just stand up for what is freedom of expression. That's what I would like. Diversity to the true core, not to what they think is diversity, because some people think that the diversity is what they think is diversity. Right. But my way of seeing diversity is much, much more intense, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If you harm anyone, if you don't do politics, if you're not violent, but you do art, art should be available for everyone. And I think that what I'm afraid of is that there are not venues left in London because of gentrification.
Right.
So London, it's like a building site, at the moment. All the old venues, pubs are being shut down. So it's very hard in London to just find a venue where you can do, noise shows, and as we would have in the past. So this is the one thing that is really concerning, you see. But we are on the hunt. Hopefully we can find something. I don't know. I still have energy into this,
Yeah. Good.
I still have a lot of energy for this. So my hope is that, yes, there will be more of this kind of event where, people can go and more people like us can perform.
What else have you got coming up, Gaia, before we sign off? Anything else you can let us know about any activities or?
I don't know. I was thinking, I've got a release I want to release. I'm just giving myself a deadline to do it. I don't know. I don't know. I was planning to go to Dresden to a festival, which our friend is organizing, just to see the show and have a weekend away.
Are you going? The Tower Transmissions.
I was thinking of that. Which is a really cool festival. I played there in the past.
Yeah, I went once.
It's fantastic. I love Dresden as well, and Eric is great. He's a great organizer. Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, beside the release, I have nothing planned really. I mean, I've had one gig was offered to me because I think they're replacing one of the gigs in London, which were cancelled. With Molest, because I know Molest from the one-to-one, so he sent me an email saying if I wanted to play, but of course I don't want to play, because if it's a replacement gig, I will miss Sam dearly, and then in the first place I was with Sam anyway, so I'm glad they can play, if they play, but it's just I'm going to do, I think I have enough material to do a few releases. Basically, I just have to focus on mastering them. And yeah, this is what I'm going to do as my next tasks before the end of the year. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you still have energy going forward, and I know that you'll channel that into the right places. And I think there'll be shows and an activity going on in London again soon enough.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I think, we are a few people in London. I think one thing I didn't mention also is Operative Records, which was another collective I took part on a few years back with John Murphy, who is now passed as well. And the guys from Knife Ladder, Nevos, and a few other people. And it was interesting because we had a collective where we would put on gigs and also have a rehearsal studio. So there have been collaboration in London with people that are still around, and the aim is to link up back again with people and try and do something, constructive together. Even people that have DJ'd at my club in the past, like Francesca, or other people that might have, links with venues and things that we can do together. Guys from Knife Ladder, Tamon from I'm Not. There's a few people, that are good friends, and that we are still quite passionate that would love to do something in London,
Good.
It's just finding the venue, finding the mean and the organization, because we all work,
Yeah.
We have to work to make a living.
Well, I'm hopeful, and I thank you very much for coming on here and talking to me about that, everything, about Anti-Child League, about your activities, your history, and what you're up to now and what you're going to be up to in the future.
Thank you, Oscar.
And we'll take care and keep in touch.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Head over to Patreon to hear the extended segments of this interview, where Gaia shares more personal details about her activities, talks about her favorite shows that she put on, and more. All this and much more bonus content and benefits at patreon.com/White Centipede Noise. Support via Patreon is crucial to the existence of White Centipede Noise podcast, so huge thank you to all who support.
You can Googie.